what does it mean to be satisfied, and have I achieved that satisfaction is what you're asking. Um, yeah, I think the answer to the question is that satisfaction is having set certain goals and aspirations in your life and then worked hard to achieve them, and then, whether or not things have turned out the way that you pictured them, or whether you feel like you've satisfied your goals. I think that's probably it. And I think in my life, I'm very satisfied. I think it's, you don't end up going exactly where you aspire to go. Maybe the plans that you had when you were younger changed and modified as you matured. But I would have to say that life has been a great adventure, and I'm very, very happy and satisfied with all that's come about. I have wonderful family and wonderful career and great friends and my health, and there's a lot of satisfaction, I think, in everything that I've done in my life, and I'm very, very pleased with it. Educational background, yeah, you're right. It was sort of a non-traditional path, but I think it's part of the growing process. When you're young and you think you want to do one thing. I mean, I know that when I was in high school, I decided, well, I want to be an actor, and then I guess brought my goals back a little bit to reality, and said, well, I can always be a school teacher, and ended up going to school to take the things that I think that I was able to succeed at, which was communications, and then decided, well, what the heck, I'm an intelligent, talented guy, why don't I go for it, go for my dreams? And so, continue with my education towards a career in entertainment, in acting and broadcasting and all of those things. And then, that career, unfortunately, didn't really need a lot of education. You don't need a master's degree in acting to get an acting job. You just need to jump up on the stage and show them what you can do. So I kind of took a detour just prior to finishing my bachelor's degree. I took off into the entertainment industry and worked there for, 8 or 10 years, and then decided I had sort of, run the gamut of all the experiences that I could have in that profession, and decided to go back to school. But I kept my hand in education because I loved learning. I had such a thirst for knowledge. I loved it so much that I would go to community colleges, and I would take photography or philosophy or, whatever there was to take. And by the time I finished, my 7th or 8th community college, I ended up running out of things to take, and finally decided, well, law school is a perfect choice, because you never know where that'll take you, but the education you get, I'm sure, will be, beneficial to whatever career that you were in. So started law school with an eye on being an entertainment lawyer, because that's all I knew was entertainment industry, and one thing leads to another. So my educational path was circuitous, to say the least, but pretty much went 4 years, and then just before I finished, took a detour in a job, and went to all these community colleges, and probably got the equivalent of 2 or 3, PhDs if you added up all the units, but they didn't really count for that. Part of the community college thing was a 2-year program in commercial music and recording engineering, and so even though that didn't result in an advanced degree, it was something that I really enjoyed doing, and I was able to complete that. So it took me a while to get on the path that I maybe should have gone to right away. Who knows? I don't think I'd change anything, because all the experiences that I had in school were wonderful, and I learned so much that eventually helped me in what I do now. And I think educationally, being a well-rounded person and having a lot of different educational experiences just adds to what you know and what you bring to whatever profession you're in. So it was a long route, but got there, and I don't feel I need to really go anymore, although I do continue now with continuing education. As an attorney, you have to have several hours a year just to kind of keep up on the profession. So I continue to do that, and I do many more hours than are required of me, but I enjoy it. I think education is one of those things that you just should do your entire lifetime. You always have to keep learning. That's what keeps you alive and fresh and interested. It's interesting because I don't know that there's a lot of people that decide in the third or fourth grade, what they want to do for the rest of their lives and then actually go in that path. So I think that's probably the exception rather than the rule. But I know that my first desire to have a profession and a career was when I was in about the fourth or fifth grade. I decided that I wanted to be an astronaut because it was early in the space race. It was the early 60s, and that's what everybody talked about, and it was exciting to me, and the science of it was fascinating. I mean, I went so far as to enroll in Russian class because I felt that I needed to speak Russian so I could communicate with the cosmonauts. But after a couple of years, that waned a bit, and then I discovered that my skills really were more aligned with communication, being able to communicate, and it was more social than scientific, I guess. So I never really had the thought or the dream, I guess, of being a lawyer because I don't think I'd ever been exposed to lawyers. That path, wasn't really exposed to me for many, many years. And when I finally learned about what it was, then it seemed like a natural thing that had I known about that profession earlier, I probably would have gone that direction. But I guess in high school and early college, being sort of drawn to the entertainment industry, I thought I would be an actor or a spokesman or something in that field, and I'm kind of doing that now. I have the opportunity to interact. I'm on TV sometimes. I put on shows for captive audiences of 12, the jurors. So I think it has a tremendous amount of satisfaction, and I think even more so because of the intellectual stimulation that you get from what I do is much more than the intellectual stimulation probably than I would get as an actor playing another role and doing what somebody else is telling me to do. I get to be myself, use my own mind, use my own style of communication. So I think that part of it is very, very gratifying, and I'm really glad that this path has allowed me to be in this profession.
Well, turned out, are you satisfied with your current financial status?
Yeah, I mean, everybody wishes they had more, probably. I mean, that's a normal, kind of a human desire, but I'm very fortunate. I've been very, very lucky to never be in a financial crisis. And I think that's very rare. I mean, entrepreneurs will make and lose millions in their lifetimes, and I've never been in a situation where I've been destitute or didn't have a place to live or, didn't have a car since the time I was a college student, So I think that ever since I started in the workforce, I've worked very, very hard to make sure that I always had income coming in and I was always able to have everything that I need. And so I feel very fortunate. I have a beautiful home and, cars that work and everything that I need. And I can afford to buy myself, things if I want things, and I'm able to travel. And so I'm not really in want of anything. And that's about the best position you could ever be in financially.